Sounds like a plan. Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to today's Appraisal Buzz webinar with RemoteVal and Incenter. We have a couple, almost 200 people registered today. We're going to wait a little bit, another minute or two for everyone to join. In the meantime, this is going to be a very interactive presentation. So use the Q&A to post your questions, and we'll also be sending polls throughout. I'm going to start right now with one quick poll so you get used to how to use the system. But also fill in the Q&A and let us know where you're calling in from. So starting to see some of you respond. We have New Jersey, Oklahoma, California, Arizona, Kansas City. It's great to see everybody from all over the country. Wow. It's really coming in right now. And don't forget to answer the poll that popped up and let us know, if you've done these yet or how you feel about them. All right, well, it looks like we have 250 people in here already. So I think most of you are here. I'm not going to stall anymore. Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. Hey, everybody joining in from around the country. Really appreciate your time today. Mark Walser, president of Incenter Appraisal Management Company. Lisa Ratsky is with me as well. She's a certified appraiser and our vendor manager. So some of you know her. If you work with Incenter a lot, she signs up our appraisers and is a great resource for the assignments that we do. And Michael Richardson is here from our marketing team as well to assist us with the webinar. We're going to jump right into what RemoteVal Desktop is and the appraiser controlled tool that it provides. I'm going to answer some questions too on remote desktops in general. I still get a ton of questions from appraisers about it, as well as from lenders about it. And I've also found that there are quite a few misconceptions about it too. So we'll try to hit every part of that. First off, for those of you who are new, just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we envision technology doing in the appraisal space. And as you ask questions, I just wanted to say we'll be looking to try to answer your questions throughout the webinar. Lisa and Michael and myself will make every attempt to grab those questions and try and leave some time at the end to interact a little bit. So we just wanted you to know that, first of all, supporting and not appraiser is really the key of what we're doing with our remote desktop. It's basically to enhance and advance the role of the appraiser in the inspection. And for those of you who don't know, the story of RemoteVal actually begins about a year and a half ago during the pandemic, March 2020. We have states and other things shutting down. People don't want to let appraisers into their houses. Sometimes appraisers don't want to go into houses. And we started thinking to ourselves, well, how do we get around that? Should we do a hybrid? Should we find some other way of creating an alternative valuation product? And what we got from our appraisers as we polled them was very much the sentiment of, if I did something like this with technology, I'd want to be the one in charge of it. I would want to be able to still inspect. I'd want to be able to talk to the homeowner, to converse with them. I'd want to take the photos myself. I'd like to sit at my desk and do just about everything I can do with an appraisal inspection, except perhaps smelling and touching, which of course you can't do through a screen. Unless someone invents scratch and sniff banner ads or something like that down the road, we're probably not going to be able to do it. That having been said, if we can at least get you eyes on the property, have you in control of the inspection, and have you control the experience, it seemed to be a better way to go than perhaps third parties providing you data. So that was the whole idea of building out RemoteVal and what we did. Let's recap those degrees of inspection. For those of you who've taken my friend Josh Wallett's class before, you can see kind of how we divide out what inspections look like. And we really put the remote real-time inspection, which is what RemoteVal enables, sort of in that middle ground between a third party and being on site. It allows you to do much of what you can do on site, but you're the one really seeing it and verifying it. And as it gets to the new desktop too, from the GSEs, you're going to see how you can utilize this to do some of that virtual inspection component for the verification that you need to do. So just to really recap, and we'll see a few examples of this shortly. The assigned appraiser who's sitting at the desk controls the inspection from offsite with real-time video, with photography. The remote device is held by an individual on site, and that's obviously going to be a phone, right? For the Android and iPhone are supported here. Basically, anybody who's holding an Android or iPhone that is about 4 years old or newer can actually use RemoteVal. It's basically an iPhone 7 and greater, an Android device running Nougat OS or better. So you're talking about a pretty old phone there. Most consumers in the US upgrade their phones every year to year and a half. In fact, right now with the iPhone 13 being pushed out there, might surprise you to know that almost 30% of iPhone users already have an iPhone 13 because the carriers are just giving them away on trade-ins. So we have not found in any of the remote appraisals that we have done to date that there has been any issue with a person's phone being able to handle RemoteVal. So that's really good news. And then again, think about all the different folks that could be the one holding the phone at the property instead of you, right? It could be the homeowner, could be the agent, a contractor. We do a lot of fix and flip private lending where this is actually a thing. Contractors who are renovating homes. As soon as they're finished with the renovation, we can connect them to the appraiser and take a look at that draw inspection or what have you, and make sure that gets done. Trainee appraiser, excellent for trainees. If you have a supervisor in the office and a trainee on site, the trainee can be the one holding the phone. You don't have to even bother the homeowner at that point. And they can just go through the house and you can oversee them live using RemoteVal. So for everything from potential applications in Perea to Fannie and Freddie supervisor trainee appraisals today, this can be used, which is a really neat thing. So the benefits for the appraiser chiefly are the appraiser remains in control of the inspection. There's going to be able to view and verify this property live via a video stream. You're going to take geographically verified and time-stamped pictures and images. You're going to measure the interior and the exterior of the property, and you're going to use it like a sketch pad, like a notepad. And I do have someone who has said that they were not able to see the PowerPoint, so let me just make sure that we can still do that. I'm just going to double check. It might have stopped sharing my screen. This is the lovely part about technology. Let's give that a shot one more time. And I have sharing on. And I just want to make sure, let me just stop sharing and reshare. Hang on. Sorry about that, everyone. We're going to try this one more time and share my screen. Okay. Are we on the benefits of RemoteVal? Are we back? Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, everyone. So just to kind of recap the information again, you're going to take geographically verified and timestamp pictures. You're going to use it as a sketch pad and notepad, and you can view and verify that property in real time. So let's look at some examples of it, and we'll go through. First, let's talk about the desktop. So the desktop appraisal has generated a little bit of confusion both in lender community as well as the appraiser community. So I want to reiterate some things that I've heard from my friends at the GSEs as well as just in general in the industry. First off, the floor plan hangs a lot of people up. People are saying, well, how do I do a floor plan? We'll actually give you a solution for that. But understand something, the appraiser is not supposed to be burdened with the floor plan. The intent originally of this is not that you guys are out there trying to cobble together floor plans with interior walls without being able to see a property and all of that. The idea here is that a real estate company, right, and that's why this desktop is starting on the 90% LTV purchase scenario. The feeling is that those pictures that are available in the MLS are pretty recent. They're taken by a real estate company, and they're there for the purpose of marketing the listing, so they're probably pretty accurate. And the idea would be that if the real estate company can provide a floor plan to you, or there is a builder sketch, you know, if it was a home that was bought in the last 20 years, probably a good chance that there's a floor plan there that was there with the home, that someone has access to that, and then they can give you that floor plan, and then you can take some verifying measurements and do some visual inspection using a tool like RemoteVal or using some sort of other third-party data and be able to confirm it and then move forward. That's the intent. Where we've seen some change is, and I've heard it from lenders as well, is that they like the idea of an appraiser being able to do a desktop and hopefully provide a faster turn time. The question then is, well, what if there is no floor plan? What are you supposed to do then? Well, again, appraisers have a couple of choices. If there's no floor plan, you don't think you can verify the data, then pivot. Move off to a full 1004 and tell the lender and the AMC that, and then we'll pivot the appraisal, no problem to that. But a lot of lenders have asked us, hey, can you actually help the appraiser provide a floor plan if they don't if we don't have one? The answer to that is yes, but I'm going to show you that here in a few on this webinar. Show you some amazing technology that actually creates these floor plans. But one thing I would say is I think it's most important that the appraiser understands how a floor plan is being generated. You want to know. Not just here's a floor plan. I like to call it make the sausage versus understanding how the sausage is being made. If I'm going to hand you a floor plan, I'd like you to know how we did it. And you should have the ability to see that and understand it and be able to decide whether or not you want to use it. So that's what we'll show. A couple of quick notes on the desktop itself. This is the Form 1004 Desktop 70D. It's in all of your appraisal software. And this can be used to do this GSE desktop. And we also use it today to do private appraisals. So in the private lending world, as some of you know, Incenter has a tax appeal business in one of our sister companies. We do tax appeal appraisals. You can do it this way as well. There's a number of options in home equity and other places in portfolio lending where you can utilize this form and do basically what amounts to a full appraisal on it. So again, just to recap that desktop, no physical inspection is necessary, but verification must take place. One of the ways you can verify is using virtual inspection technology. On the RemoteVal side, we don't get into sort of the third-party data discussion. Our intent is to put the appraiser right there at the property. So by you being able to visually verify in real time using the technology with that homeowner, with that agent, using their phone, you're fulfilling that verification requirement. And then floor plans. Again, they're necessary for you to submit exterior walls with interior wall partitions, not to scale, and no ANSI compliance required. So that's kind of important to note at this point. Can be provided by third party. You could have a previous appraisal that is supplied, and you could use that and just verify it again using RemoteVal or a similar tool, or you can generate one. So that is the way that we see these two things occurring. This last bullet point here, I'm going to demonstrate a little bit in the presentation, but there are new technologies out there that new phones support, including 3D video floor scans. So we'll talk about how you can do verification at the same time that you're actually potentially generating a floor plan. All right, so just to recap, what are the parts of your desktop experience using RemoteVal? First, record the virtual call and capture photographs. We do have a recording feature in RemoteVal. It is for appraiser work file. So you can actually click a button to say, I want to record this. The homeowner on their phone, as you connect with them and start your virtual inspection, will get a pop-up on there that says your appraiser would like to record this for the purpose of creating a floor plan. Do you allow them to do that? And they can hit allow. That now records the entire session. We store that session for you. We store it in your account free. So you have the ability to do two things with it. One, it's work file, so it's evidence. And two, you actually can revisit that property again and again by watching that video. So that's the reason we provide that. You can start with existing sketches, as I said before, and confirm them. You can note materials, condition of the home, features, the locations and rooms, the approximate dimension of the walls that you need to verify that floor plan. You can replay the video to see that. If you have a floor plan in front of you and shows the layout, you can have them walk through live and you can see, oh, okay, I see you walked into the front door. It says here there's a living room on the left side and a dining room through doors on the right. You can have them look left and look right and just verify that's exactly what you're seeing, okay? And if you don't have a floor plan, again, we'll give you that 3D scanning capability so you can just have them walk through. Basic uses of the product right now, again, GSE Desktop Appraisal, private lending with as is and as repaired values, 1004Ds. You can even do with this in that particular world. Portfolio lending, and I did mention supervisor trainee. So that was part of my slides that didn't show earlier. So just wanted to recap that. All right. So we know from our what I just said, the appraiser's connecting with that individual. So you can see there Josh connecting with me on screen, and my phone is showing there what I'm looking at live on the video, and Josh is able to see that on his desktop. The next thing he's able to see is where I am. So this is very important. You can actually see the date and the timestamp, location GPS timestamp, stamped in on the device and also on the desktop. It'll also be stamped on every photo you take. So when you as the appraiser click your mouse and you grab a photo of what you're seeing through the phone on the other end, that time and date stamp will be there, embedded on the file in Meditect. So that's your location veracity. You can see kind of a picture here of the RemoteVal desktop. That is your actual tool that you're using. As you can see, as I walk through, Josh is able to, he can zoom. You can see that zoom level on the right. He can actually control the zoom in my camera if he wants to see something closer than where I am. He's seeing the gallery of images as we keep taking them. They keep on adding to that gallery on the right with the time and the date stamp. He can do labeled pictures, as you're seeing on the left there. He can just grab a label. And the way RemoteVal works on labels, if you just click a label, it'll take the picture. You don't have to like click the label and then grab a camera shot. You can just click the label and that will take a labeled picture of the home. So it's pretty cool, pretty easy, very fast. You can generate these types of images very, very quickly on RemoteVal. Also, understand something for those of you who might be worried about clarity and resolution. We are streaming live from the camera on the device. We are not capturing the screenshot. This is real-time inspection. So even if your video is a little blurry because maybe your internet coverage is a bit spotty and you're sort of seeing a kind of pixelized, blurry video, sometimes that happens. Person's hanging out in a rural area or they're in a part of the house that doesn't have great cell coverage or great Wi-Fi coverage. That's okay, because once you see what you want to see, like that cabinet there with the countertop, even if it's just a tad blurry, if you take the picture will be HD quality and sharp because the camera is capturing it, not the screen. So I hope that's clear, and I hope that those of you on this webinar will sign up for a RemoteVal account and try it. It's something that when we give you your RemoteVal account, we actually create a dummy job order in there. So you can actually do this inspection yourself on your own phone with your own family members or trainees and do that without having to kind of put it to the test on a homeowner live. You can practice with it quite a lot before you actually do a live one. Okay, that's how photographs work. Let's talk about the basic measurement. For those of you who've been in the industry and seeing our videos on this, we do have a measuring tool that's built into it. This is not what you'll use to generate the full floor plan, but if you want to verify a floor plan, this is a great tool for that. It actually has a built-in digital tape that both the person holding the camera sees on the phone and that the appraiser sitting at their desktop sees. It's extremely accurate. We tell people to stand between 5 to 8 feet away from the wall that they want to measure and then just keep that green bar at the ground level and drag it right across. It actually will measure quite accurately. On regular phones, we've seen consistently less than 2-inch variances. And on phones that are newer or more advanced, like this iPhone 13 I'm holding that have the LiDAR camera built into it, you're seeing something that's extremely accurate, like off by mere centimeters, if it's off at all. So as the phones get more and more advanced, you're going to see these measurement capabilities become really, really, really good. And I'll illustrate that as I kind of show you my home here, the top floor of it that an appraiser did and that we did with 3D scanning and RemoteVal. So those measurements are there. And by the way, sometimes people ask me, do I have to measure the entire house? Well, if you have a floor plan, no. Like in this particular case, we're walking across the front and the side of a house. If you had a floor plan, for example, that said that your left to right on that front as you're looking at it from the street is 50 feet long, you can use RemoteVal and just have the person go over to the corner, drop that measuring tape in one corner of the house, walk across the front of their house and get to the other side. And it will draw a line for you and it will show you it's approximately 50 feet. That's a verification. You have now verified that that floor plan is actually accurate. If it's off by a pretty large amount, I would say if it's off by 2 or 3 feet, You could say, you know what, there might be an issue with that floor plan. I may need to see if we can measure it more fully with RemoteVal, or maybe ask some questions about it. So I will just tell you, in our experience, this measuring tool is very, very accurate. Usually if you're on a straight line for any type of wall, if you're off, you're going to be off by inches, like 1 or 2 inches. It's not going to be in feet. All right. I want to just talk about something old-fashioned: communication. This gets lost in a lot of the discussions around technology and remote appraisals and all the stuff we're talking about here. But every appraiser I've ever known tells me communication is one of the most important things. You guys all know this. When you go to your properties, you compile your questions, very thoughtful questions about what you want to ask, the things you want to see, the questions you want to ask the agent or the homeowner. Could be about the property, it could be about the neighborhood, all of those things. How do you ask that if you don't have a chance to talk to the homeowner? So to me, that's one of the best aspects of this. The fact that you're just talking live. As you can see, Josh is actually telling me to move around the backyard here in the house, and it's 90 degrees out. So I'm giving him a little bit of a hard time that he's in the air condition where he is, and I'm sitting out here doing this. But it was kind of a fun conversation, right? And I wasn't out there for long, but it is a good realization that you can look at things. He wanted to look at the mechanicals too and ask me some questions about the AC. So we were able to see that and kind of go get some close-up shots and what have you. So you can really ask questions that you need to ask about a property. I was on a RemoteVal inspection with an appraiser in New Jersey who did it with an agent. And when we got all done with that RemoteVal, and was kind of watching it all on screen, we asked the appraiser, is there anything else that you want to see? And he said, you know what, there is one thing I forgot. I'd like to see if we have a garbage disposal on this newly renovated kitchen. So we had the agent walk back upstairs, go ahead and open that cabinet and point the phone at it so he could see whether or not there was a garbage disposal there. It's those kinds of things that you get to do in this type of real-time inspection. All right.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I have a good question.
Yeah.
John asked, is this solo for desktop appraisals, and does it sync up with forms software, i.e. ACI or Total?
Yeah, great question, John. So you can actually do it. Yes, you can do it for desktop appraisals. If you want to do it solo, meaning that you want to just go out there and do it yourself, potentially, we do have a self-inspection mode that you can go out and take self-inspection pictures and links and push it up if you want to actually physically travel there. But it's meant to be done with a homeowner or an agent or someone at the property, so you can just sit at your desk and remotely accomplish it. Your second question, does it sync up with forms software? So we have this integrated through ValueLink Connect right now. As an AMC, we use ValueLink's platform. So ValueLink does have it integrated. And if you have an assignment from us, you can actually push it back into all of those pieces of software using the integration they have. We are working on some direct integrations for RemoteVal with Appraiser software, and that's not built out at this point, but it is something that is on our roadmap. So just to be very clear, we do see that coming down the line. In the meantime, what you can do with it, if you're not dealing with an integration platform, is you can just go ahead and export the photos and the data out of RemoteVal and import them into your Appraiser software and then use it that way. And I see a bunch of other questions that are now starting to come in. I love the thickness of the wall questions from Alan, so I'm going to hit that one on in just a second. And is the software only available if you sign up with Incenter AMC? At this point in time, yes. And we do not charge appraisers for it, but we are in the process, again, of proliferating it in the industry. So there's a good opportunity for you to see the software available from other companies down the line in the very near future. To do the photos, there's a question from Patrick. Can you do photos with orientation of device? It does capture photos in both orientations, straight up or through portrait. For the video scanning feature, which I'm about to jump into, you will need to be in portrait mode, but the application actually forces you to tilt your phone to do that. So the homeowner will not have to guess at that. All right, let me go ahead and...
Actually, Mark, a couple of people have asked also is there a way to just practice with RemoteVal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when we sign up an account for you, you will have a dummy order created in that account. That dummy order will stay alive for as long as you don't mark it inspection completed. So you can inspect over and over and over again, and you can put unlimited pictures and everything on that. So that's exactly how it works. Great question. I want to talk about damage and flaws. So right now, let me speak to this specifically on the desktop appraisal component for a minute. Even though you can do the desktop appraisal itself as a virtual inspection this way, using the current guidance, one thing I will say is that if you do identify damage, like in this particular house, there was this wall. We didn't actually know this was there. And so when we opened it, there's that wall that's got this whole cutout there that they're trying to remediate. If you see something like that, you will have to do the 1004D update inspection today. You'll have to do that in person. So you would actually have to go out and physically drive there and verify the repair. I think most constituencies in our business are pretty aware of the dichotomy there between being able to do your valuation remotely and then having to do the 1004D virtually. So I suspect that at some point in time that will get addressed. But in the meantime, for now, in a Fannie or Freddie desktop situation, you would have to go and see that property and see the repair in person. And again, as you all know, being appraisers, it is a requirement for you. If you see something that is a repair issue or it's health and safety or hazard item, you should report it and you should treat it like a regular appraisal. I also want to say that we're very sanguine about RemoteVal's capabilities. While we do think it can do a lot for you, there are some situations and some property assignment types that you're going to get from us and from other AMCs that you may not be able to complete this with a RemoteVal, right? So, if that's the case, you should be very free and very honest with us about that and say, I think on this one, there's just too many problems I'm seeing through this virtual inspection. I think I probably need to go and see this one myself. Totally get it, completely understand. We would pivot you to a full appraisal and we would move from there. Probably a good time to talk about fees as well, at least for our purposes at Incenter. We pay the same fees for RemoteVal appraisals, desktop or otherwise, as we do for regular appraisals. So we're not the kind of AMC that bids out fees. So all of our appraisers actually come into our system and actually input their customer and reasonable fees into our platform. And that's what we pay you when we engage you on reports. So your desktop appraisals will be no different. We'll be giving you those at the same fees. The difference is on a desktop, since you don't have to drive there. Anyone looked at gas prices lately? Or it's kind of expensive. And if you don't have to drive there and you don't have to spend the time to do that and you can do it all through RemoteVal, we would just want it back faster, right? So it should be very possible to do an appraisal in 5 days or less using this if you don't have to drive to the property. Some of our appraisers have done them much faster than that. But we do try to at least work with you on the timing. I've always been a little mystified when I hear things like, oh, we're going to get to a same day appraisal. I don't know, maybe in the future, 20 years from now, we might. But right now, the way I see the appraisal process, appraisers have to do all the same analysis that they would do after visiting a property. So we don't expect that from you, just to be very clear. We just like to see you guys do a quality appraisal to the extent that you can on something like RemoteVal on a remote desktop, and be able to come back to us and say, I just inspected virtually with the homeowner today. Give me about 48 hours and I'll have your appraisal back. That's a perfectly acceptable answer. So just to be very clear, we're not expecting overnight miracles here. I think all of us are on this journey together, and we're going to step through and do it hopefully faster and faster over time. But right now, we're really looking at trying to get sort of that 3 to 5 day, maybe 5 to 7 day in certain cases, appraisal turn time. And honestly, if that's what appraisers deliver with the desktop, lenders will be very happy about that if they can really count on that happening on a desktop appraisal every time. So just sort of understand that as you think about whether or not you want to take these desktops. Okay. Okay, so let's move through. I want to touch base on this last sort of point, and this would be 3D floor scan. Okay, so where did this come from? This came from what I talked about at the front end of the webinar, which was that we had a number of lenders and some appraisers, frankly, ask us, hey, if I don't have a floor plan that has been provided up front by the real estate company or whatever, is there a way for me to create one using RemoteVal? And by the way, I think your digital measuring tape is really cool, but I really don't want to walk someone through a house room by room to do that digital measuring tape thing and measure each room. So is there a way this can be done super easy, super fast, and that gives me some accuracy? That answer is yes, there is. So You can see this on screen, guys. This is a live walkthrough inspection with the homeowner. So we have a mode that you can activate, which will take a video live inspection. This is actually my house. I'm second floor, so I'm doing this with my son's room. So you can take a look at how I move through the room. Just as if I was on a FaceTime call with my friends or my family, I'm just holding my phone. I'm simply walking around the room. You'll notice that how fast that was. I just did my son's room there in about 5 seconds. We just walked in. I pointed my phone at the ground, and this is what you will tell that property occupant. You will say, just point your phone sort of toward the ground. Make sure we're getting the floor and about 5 feet or so of the wall. Stay about 5 to 7 feet away, and the app has prompts too. It will kind of tell them you're too close, too far. And then it scans the room. It gives you this scan that goes all the way around from this video. What does this scan produce? So I'm about to show you something pretty cool. Anyone on this call ever seen a 3D ultrasound? We probably should have made that a poll question, Jim. For 3D ultrasounds of babies are really, really cool. Think of it as a 3D ultrasound. It's obviously not using sound waves, but it is creating a 3D mesh of the home when you do that scan. So again, live inspection by the appraiser. You're talking to the homeowner. You're verifying. You're asking questions. You're just moving them through the home, and you're just having them scan the walls of each room as they move. Okay, takes about 3 minutes or so, 3 to 5 minutes maybe per floor if you're doing it on a floor by floor basis. So what do we generate from that mesh? We generate this, a 3D floor. This is a floor plan. Let's look at it in some detail so you guys can see what it's doing. I call this part making the sausage. One of the critiques that I have heard from appraisers about various solutions in the marketplace about floor plans and specifically is, I don't understand how this floor plan is being made. People are pitching this floor plan over to me and saying, here's a floor plan with measurements. A third party went and measured it. It's fine, that can happen. Or someone else did some measuring, or they use an application to generate a floor plan. That's all great. You're getting a floor plan, and maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. We want to actually show you how we're doing it. So when this video was taken and this walkthrough was generated, RemoteVal created this 3D floor plan scan that you're seeing here. If you look closely, just to kind of see here, you'll see my son's bedroom over here that we just saw the video of right there. There's his bed, and there's his desk. That's the hutch in his room. And by the way, you have the video as well. Remember, you have that video. We're going to give you all three. You're going to get the video, you're going to get the 3D mesh here, and you're going to get the floor plan. And you're going to be able to see how it was generated. If you have a question, like for example, over here, there's a kind of what looks like maybe a dead spot. What is that? You can actually go back and you can see for the video for yourself and go, oh, that's a closet. Okay, got it. You have the ability to look at all this side by side on your own computer and verify it. You don't have to take our word for it. So I call that how the sausage is being made. And you can then decide, do I trust these measurements in this floor plan enough to be able to do that? Well, let me show you my second floor of my home. So this is the floor plan that RemoteVal generated from that 3D scan. Okay, you can see it here. We actually included wall thickness. Alan Pear, I believe you asked that question earlier. When you go into this mode with the homeowner, you can actually pick the wall thickness. I think we default to 6 inches, but you can change that. And so if you do that, then that actually will go into the creation of the exterior walls on the floor plan. Okay. And so what we did with wall thickness, our RemoteVal measurement came in at 1611 square feet. My builder floor plan from the builder, just for everyone's reference, was 1586 square feet for this second floor. So RemoteVal comes in at 1611. We're basically at about a 25-foot variance. Now, I had an appraiser also measure my home about 3 months ago when we purchased this home. The appraiser did a great job, came in, and he did this. That's his sorry about the resolution. I pulled it off the appraisal report, but that's his sketch for my house. Okay. And he had 1552 for his square feet. So he was obviously off not much relative to the floor plan, certainly not enough to potentially impact a valuation, at least for this size of a home. But, you know, at the same time, why am I showing you this? Not because someone was right or someone was wrong. I mean, both measurements were off what the floor plan would be. But I think the general point to take away from here is that if an appraiser is going through and doing measurements, what they're coming up with is probably not going to be a whole lot different than what RemoteVal does. There's going to be some variance. The question becomes, how big is the variance? So I want to go back and just say, you know, again, for the record, this 3D model measures the same way every time. And it actually has the ability to, well, for example, see things like stairs. Patricia, I see a question for you there. Yes, it actually can take into account stairs. That's all part of the video recording. So stairs will be delivered as part of the floor plan. Absolutely. In this particular case, though, looking at those, we wanted to just see how close does this come to actually measuring. And that's what we're really excited about, how accurate it actually is. And bear in mind, this is only going to get better and better, right? As phones become more powerful, as they add, you know, more advanced 3D and laser and LiDAR capability into them, you're going to really have a replacement for a measuring tape built into that phone. And so we wanted to just kind of show you that and show you what we're doing with floor plans. This is something that you can request from us. So again, if you've been provided a floor plan, there's no reason to go through this with the homeowner. I would just verify it with our measuring tape and use you know, some photos to just kind of, and video walkthrough to see that the layout is good. But if you don't have a floor plan, there will be an option for you to say, Incenter, get me a floor plan, right? And you can use that with that video scan. So you can just activate the video scan. You can have that homeowner just sort of walk through their home live with you. Remember, you don't lose touch with them. You're still talking and you're still able to see. And you can just walk them through the first floor and the second floor and get that floor plan generated. And then we'll actually create this and send it to you the same day. So that is the floor plan feature as it stands now. I want to share one last thing before I conclude the webinar. It's important to understand, and I know there's a ton of questions coming here, so we will get to them as best we can. But I also want to let you know, you do have to tell the homeowner what they're actually about to get into, or in this case, for the desktop appraisals in the Fannie and Freddie world, it's probably going to be agents more than homeowners. You want to just tell them, what are you about to do with me? So we created some assets for you. This is one of them. It's a 90-second explainer video. It's on our website at incenteram.com/homeowner. I want to shout out Mike Richardson here on the call because he's the one who designed and created this thing. So we have a great team at our sister company, Incenter Marketing. And this will be one of many assets that we put out for appraisers that you can send. This goes out with the invites for the homeowner, and you can just have this link as well, and you can text it or send it to the homeowner, the realtor, and you can say, hey, just watch this video. Take 90 seconds and just watch it so you understand what I'm about to do with you. I'm going to turn my sound up because unlike Zoom, we don't have the ability to share from my computer sound. So I've got speakers. I'm about to blast myself in the ears, but I want you to be able to hear it. So here it goes.
Congratulations. You have scheduled a remote inspection with RemoteVal. RemoteVal is fast, secure, and easy to use. Here are a few things you need to know about how it works. In order to use RemoteVal, all you need is an Android or iPhone with a good cell signal or Wi-Fi. Make sure you have the ability to safely walk inside and outside your home. Turn on all your lights and wear comfortable footwear.
Oops, sorry about that.
On inspection day, you'll receive a text message with a link. Simply click on the link and follow the instructions. You'll need to enter your name and grant access to your smartphone's camera and microphone for the app to use. Save time by downloading the RemoteVal app beforehand. After you click the link, you'll be automatically connected to the appraiser performing the inspection. At this point, you'll be talking directly to the appraiser and acting as a virtual tour guide through your home. Your appraiser will direct you where to point the camera in order to get the necessary photographs. For best results, try holding your camera steady and level as you move through your home. When your appraiser switches to measurement mode, you'll see multiple floor, ceiling, and wall options. Your appraiser can work with you to pick the most effective option for your phone and home. For best measurement results, you should stand 5 to 6 feet away from the wall. You'll also see a green locator bar and a yellow digital tape measure appear on the phone screen as you walk across the room. It's important that you hold your phone steady so the appraiser can accurately capture corner locations. And that's it. Your appraiser now has the information required to begin an accurate report. In many cases, if you or your agent have provided a floor plan in advance, or if there's a county sketch available, you will not need to measure with the appraiser. But if it is needed, the appraiser will guide you through the process as necessary. Most measurements take just a few minutes to complete. If you need to make any repairs to your home, you may have a follow-up RemoteVal session to verify the work. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or want to learn more, please visit incenteram.com/homeowner.
So that's the video. Obviously, it speaks to more than just the desktops. You're looking at, when we have the private lending scenario. That's why the 1004D thing was thrown in there. But hopefully at some point in time, that'll be applicable to a GSE desktop as well. But for now, just to reiterate, 1004 desktop would have to be done in person or 1004D rather, would be done in person if you see a repair issue during an inspection or a virtual inspection on those. All right, so that is the conclusion of my slide content. I hope you guys found something in it that was interesting and applicable to you. There are a ton of questions, so we're going to go through and try to answer as many of them as we can. First of all, first question from Michael Mestel. Can you record the entire inspection? Yes, you can. The entire thing will be available in your video, and you can record multiple videos on each inspection that you do. So yeah, it's there. It's for you in your work file. And we asked Alan, I think we answered the question about the thickness of the walls. We're leaving that, of course, to the appraiser. We, as I said, we have a default of 6 inches, but you can change that. For example, my brick home there, it was 9 to 10 inches in terms of wall on those top floors. So you can actually make that determination. You can have the homeowner look at if they open a door and look at the thickness so you can see it and sort of estimate that. You could definitely do that as well. What if a defect in the property is missed? Who's at fault? How are utilities tested, hot water and heat specifically? Okay, so let me start backwards on that question. First of all, there are some assignments, of course, that you cannot do with RemoteVal. So for example, FHA requirements, some of those you can't fulfill doing a remote inspection like this at this point in time. But if you want to test things like utilities, for example, if you want to see, does the water run? You can. Does that microwave work? Oh, they remodeled the kitchen. Looks like they put a new gas stove top in there. You can just say, hey, homeowner, can you just fire up that gas stove for me so I can see it working? Those types of things you definitely can do. And then back into defect of the property. What happens if I miss if I miss something in the property? So I think one thing that you would want to do, because this is a virtual inspection and the requirements of the virtual inspection, especially for the GSE desktops, you should probably create or put a disclaimer together that basically says, I'm relying on, for example, a floor plan. So I'm relying on a floor plan. I'm using virtual inspection technology to verify the floor plan. And to the best of my ability, I'm capturing what I can capture in terms of seeing the quality and condition of the home. But the appraiser is not physically at the property. So, there are some things that maybe you can't practically see. So I think appraisers should think about how to put some limiting disclaimers on there. But I also think that lenders and the GSEs understand that there are limitations on these. So that will be in some cases up to the appraiser to do. But also on our side, we're having some of the people that we work with, such as Josh and others who are kind of experts at this, to provide you with some statements that you can use on the desktops if you decide to do them for us. How does it handle people in photos? Great question. So we typically disclaim that people that the house should be clear, so the person can take it through. There are some situations where you may have a person go in and out of the picture, and so in those cases there can be blurring that occurs of the video. Remember, you're not sharing the video outside of your work file, so you're only providing pictures on appraisals, so you don't have to worry about sharing that video with anyone else. And I recommend that you not do that because it is work file. That having been said, there are some privacy elements with certain aspects of RemoteVal where we can blur out people's faces in videos. Let me look here. I live in a very remote location. There's never floor plans available, very old properties. Can I still use this program? Yes, you could use it with the 3D video scanning. That would create the floor plan that you're after with the interior layout. But again, you should work with an agent, most likely doing that. And by the way, on these GSE desktops, I do recommend the agent as probably being the one who's primarily going to be the best resource for you. They're getting commission after all for the sale. And so they're the ones typically who are opening properties, meeting you at the properties, and will be able to walk through with you. So I would imagine most of these desktop appraisal assignments for the GSE side will be done with realtors working with you on those. Are photos being installed in the report? What about privacy issues? So the photos are actually not being installed in the appraisal report by RemoteVal. You can take 50 pictures and choose to use 13 of them, right? So it's still the same process that you do today. So you're ultimately going to decide what goes into the report. So everything RemoteVal does is an inspection. Primarily think of it as an inspection tool with two components in it: photos on one end and measurements on the other. You can use it just for photos, you can use it just for measurements, or you can use it for both. Anyway you slice it, all of that is appraiser work file. So you will decide what elements of your photos and measurements that you're going to use and put into your appraisal report. We are not prescriptive about that, nor are we interested at all in getting between an appraiser and their appraisal. So we're primarily doing this as an inspection tool for you. I already have a lender client that uses ValueLink. I'm on their appraiser panel. Does that mean I'll be able to access RemoteVal through that connection? Yes, it does. Let me flip through. There's a lot of questions. We'll flip through. What about the certification that the appraiser personally measured the home? That would be done on a 1004 URAR, so not applicable to that scenario, which is why this only works for the desktop assignment, right? On the 1004 desktop. Now, if you're using a 1004 desktop for a non-GSE assignment, such as portfolio lending or the previously mentioned fix and flip lending in places like that, where they'll take the desktop appraisal as the primary appraisal form, then you don't have to worry about that issue, because it does have additional language and disclaimers for you to get out of that personal inspection language. For the personal inspection language on the 1004 URAR, as it relates to GSEs, there is one scenario you can use RemoteVal on, and that would be the supervisor trainee. So supervisor trainee scenario where you're the supervisor staying at home, Saad, and you have a trainee going out to the property. You both can use RemoteVal to connect with each other. You can oversee your trainee. Your trainee would sign on the left as the appraiser at the property. You would sign on the right, and then you would disclose, I did not physically inspect the property as the supervising appraiser, but I did remotely oversee them using assisted video tools like RemoteVal. And that would actually, in fact, exceed the current supervisor and training requirements that are in policy for GSEs. But that would be the only scenario in which you can use it on the 1004 URAR today. Okay, Brian, you're funny. I missed the big hole in the ceiling. So one thing I would suggest for appraisers, you control this inspection. What you do is, before you even take a photo of a room, right? Have them walk in. Remember, live stream video. Just say, hey, before I grab photos here, just show me the walls. Point your phone at the ceiling, take a quick spin, go stand in the middle of the room, just take a slow spin around the room. Let me just see everything. That takes 4 or 5 seconds to do, and then you can grab whatever pictures you want. That same issue kind of exists anyway, even if you go in person, right? You wouldn't believe some of the things sometimes appraisers miss when they're in person. But not everybody, there's a limit to this, right? There's a practical limit. For example, if someone's put a hole in the drywall and they shove a couch in front of it, if you go in and inspect the home, how many of you actually go and pull the couch and look for that hole? Most of you probably won't. Most appraisers won't. So if someone wants to pull something like that off, they're probably going to find a way to do it. But at least if you're trying to go room to room and look at everything, you can actually still do it with RemoteVal. So very sanguine about that, not saying that it's a perfect thing, nor are we saying that it's a replacement for a full appraisal physical inspection, right? They are different things, but we are saying we're trying to get you as close as possible to that ideal with the live inspection. Why do lenders and appraisers want this product? More risk for both parties, to people dealing with the property, asking borrower and realtor questions. Appraisers are appraisers because we don't sit at a desk all day long. Lenders have always required a licensed or certified appraiser to inspect the property. So why this product? I think there are some practical reasons for it. One is, as we all know, the volume in the industry is increasing. I was on Brian Reynolds' podcast a little bit ago, and we talked about this issue as well, where you've got kind of something like 73,000 active appraisers, depending on who you believe they're in the industry now. You have approximately 87 million Gen Z first-time home buyers coming into the market over the next 5 to 7 years. The traditional appraisal process may not be able to serve all of those people in timeframes that are going to be reasonable. And I think we have to all look at that and sort of understand that technology does play a role to help move any sort of process forward. My hope here, and I think the encouragement that I would give everybody, is don't run away from the technology. Embrace it, incorporate it into your business, learn how to use it, and frankly, tell us. Be very honest with us, Ryan. Right? If parts of it don't work, or you run into issues where you're like, it just doesn't work for this, or I wish it did something better, we're listening. Give us the feedback on how we can make it better for you. It's not going to replace all traditional in-person appraisals, right? There's going to be that percentage of appraisals at the top of the spectrum where the home is too large, or it's too complicated, or there's outbuildings, or there's one of my favorite examples is, what if you're appraising a home that has been rebuilt from the ground up thanks to a flood, right? You're probably going to want to walk into that home no matter how perfect it looks on pictures and video, because you want to be able to smell and just go, do I smell that mold anymore, right? So there's plenty of assignments that are going to continue to be in person. I think what we're really looking at targeting here is sort of that 40 to 60% of assignments that the neighborhoods really well. The houses are in fairly good condition. The risk on the loans is low. You have squares and rectangles, easy to measure, lots of data. As many of our appraisers tell us when we send them assignments, they already kind of know in advance what they're going to appraise that property at. They just need to verify the comps and verify the condition of the home, and you can do that quickly. So I would say, again, it's not for every appraisal, but it's going to be available to you to do for a lot of appraisals. And I think the answer there is speed. Speed is what we have been seeing from our lender clients. They want the predictability of an appraisal process being able to be 4 to 5 days, or 3 to 5 days, or whatever the number of days is. They can count on it. I think we also want to look at some of the issues that lenders and borrowers have been experiencing, right? I placed an appraisal in, I won't say which state, but one of the East Coast states here a few months ago, where it was a rural area where there was only 4 appraisers that served the entire county. One of them had retired. There was only 3 left. And the appraiser who would take the assignment charged us $3,200 for it. And it was a home that was under $250,000. It was nothing special, just happened to be in a very remote location and nobody wanted to go there. So to get an appraisal back in 3 weeks, I needed to pay $3,200. And that poor homeowner had to pay for it too, because there was no other way. Now, the appraiser, you might argue that there was maybe some fees there that are a little too high. I would agree, but there's also drive time, and it's hard to get out to a place like that. So I would have expected a premium on the appraisal no matter what. Maybe we can save trip fees for some of these people, right? By the way, I'm not saying that you should not charge complexity fees either. If you have an assignment that's complex, as we discussed at the front of the call, I always looked at the appraisal as sort of an 80-20 thing, where 20% of it's the inspection and 80% of it is your experience and your brain and your background giving that lender what the value should be. That 80% doesn't change just because you're not going to the property. But I think what we can do is at least maybe help some of these consumers, especially in areas that are underserved, areas that are rural. Perhaps we can make it a faster, more repeatable process for them. Maybe we can save them $300 or $400 trip fees, for example, and make it more fair. I do think there's an opportunity to do that with this type of technology, and I'm excited about your place in it because you guys are going to be the ones that drive it. What about the fact the appraiser is viewing in 2D and not 3D? This is a question from Josh. Thanks for the question. Will you really miss all the nuances? Well, I guess that's arguable. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. Certainly that could be the case in certain situations. We have found that the HD level of quality that the video and the photos have, I think most appraisers have said that it really does give them a really good sense of what they're looking at. And you can have the homeowner walk up and touch it too, right? So you can have them get closer and put the hand on it. If it's a railing, for example, you want to just, shake that rail. Can you do that for me real quickly? Okay. Things like that you can do. It may not capture everything, but I do think in a lot of situations, you'll find that the quality of the photography and the video will help you overcome that. If there's a situation though, Josh, just to, give you some props on your question there. If there's a situation where you feel like you can't do it, or that maybe you are missing something, again, don't be afraid to say that and say, you know what, I'm not sure I can complete this thing as a desktop assignment. Even with the remote virtual inspection, I'm not able to quite see what I want to see. I think for my peace of mind and for the lender's peace of mind, I should probably go out there and see it. And if that happens, then that happens. It's completely fine, and you can pivot it. If the room is full of personal belongings or rooms you can't walk into, will this still work? Yes. The photos, of course, can happen. And the measurements, Patricia, the measurements actually go through walls and objects, as you saw in my demos there. The measuring tape will do it, and the video scan will do it as well. As long as you're capturing wall, even if there's a bunch of clutter in front of it, it will be able to do that. Does the floor plan get generated in real time while talking with the camera holder? No, it gets generated right after. So the 3D scan of the home does get generated in real time, and then we're processing it to create you the floor plan. So we're basically telling you same day for the floor plan. Does RemoteVal produce calculations as required by the GSEs, or does the appraiser have to produce those calculations manually? No, it does provide the calculations. So there is an entire grid inside RemoteVal that shows you all those lines, the lines of the rooms, and it does provide the breakdown of the calculations for you, which you can then verify or change or do what you want with. Is this a one-time trip through the house, providing all of the items, or multiple tours for photos and measurements? It's a one-time trip. You would do this all in one shot. The average RemoteVal takes between, the ones that I've personally been on have been 15 to 25 minutes, depending on the size of the home. I personally see most appraisers spending between 25 to 40 minutes at properties, standard properties. Obviously, more complex ones, it could be longer. My personal feeling on it is that if the inspection part of RemoteVal goes on for longer than 30 minutes, it's probably starting to become a little bit tedious at that point, right? So that's why I said in one of my other slides there, can you measure and do a 6,000 square foot, 3-story luxury home with this thing? Yes, you can. Is that a great consumer experience? Probably not after the first 30 minutes, right? So some of these homes, you might just say, you know what, this person's really wealthy and they obviously have a $4 million home here. They're not going to want to hold a phone and walk through their house. So I'm just going to go. Yeah. And you know what? Totally fine. They're going to expect concierge service. But there's going to be a bunch of other people who are like, I'm sitting in my 2,500 square footer, and if I don't have to wait for 2 weeks and not have you come to my house and an appraiser can just connect with my smartphone, I do that now for so many other services, that would be easy. And I think we've been seeing a lot of acceptance from consumers who are used to this. I think the pandemic changed a little bit of that too, made them much more apt to want to do stuff like that. Could I walk around the exterior, Robert says, and generate an exterior floor plan? Yeah, actually you can. That's that measuring tape, the yellow measuring tape that you saw. If I can go back a couple of slides, but that's exactly what Josh and I were doing on that home. You can see that here. So I actually walked around this entire house, took me about 4 minutes, had some elevation changes too, but we were able to get the exterior of the home and capture it pretty neatly by just having me walk around the edge like that. Go ahead and change this slide. It's a little bit distracting to have all of these flashing videos jumping across the screen. Has there been any data collected with floor plan measures, scans on custom homes with non-90 degree or non-45 degree angles, or arcs and arcs on angles? To date, only one, and we had to build out the floor plan piece of that manually. We can capture the data points with the scanning, but yeah, that has to be done manually on our end to be able to do the arcs. But that's no different than really any other provider right now. I think over time, the technology may become able to do that. There are some things we're working on that might actually bring that to fruition? Jason, it's a great question. So again, I go back to, how are you going to start with this? Are you going to start with it on a super complex home and jump in? I'm not sure that's the best start. I think on these desktop assignments in particular, you're going to start with something more standard and easier to measure for that, for sure. Rhonda Neely asks, what safeguards do you provide for an owner that might skip a room? Great question. So because it's a virtual inspection, you're going to have to direct them. So a good example would be in the same vein. Let's say you go into a room and you see a door, like one of my rooms in my house has a little door in there. You can ask, what's behind that door? Oh, it's an attic space. Okay, that's great. Can you open it up for me? Oh, it's locked. Well, sorry, Mr. Walser, I can't proceed and complete the appraisal inspection until I see what's in that room. I don't have to take a picture of it, but you do need to open the door for me. My lender does expect me as an appraiser to see every part of the house. And if you can't do that with me now, then I'll have to connect with you later on another remote inspection, or I may have to come out, depending on whether or not we can get access to it. You can take control of those conversations, I guess is my point. And you can also, like my appraiser friend in New Jersey did, you can say at the end of your inspection, you know what, let's just do one more quick walkthrough. Won't take pictures or anything, but let's just go back through one more time and take 5 minutes and just make sure I got everything. So as you go through, I would definitely have your notepad with you and just sort of, your questions that you normally ask. And I would definitely make sure you ask those questions and say, am I seeing everything in this room before we leave the room? You can absolutely do that. And I think most appraisers have been pretty good at doing that. In this format, are comparable photos able to be taken off the MLS, or is the appraiser still required to drive the comparables? So in the format of the GSE desktop appraisal, Chris, you can use those MLS photos as your comps. Yes. In private lending, you can too, if it's a non-agency type of loan. Can anyone use this application, or only people through your AMC? At this point in time, it is available through Incenter, and we are working with a number of other AMCs who are potentially going to offer it as well. So I think it's a growth, but we'd love to have you join us, Greg, and do some remote vals for us now. I noticed that a lot of AMCs don't currently have an answer for desktop, apparently, and are turning down the assignments. We are not. We have lenders ordering them pretty consistently, so we'd love to work with you directly, and maybe you could be one of our appraisers and cut your teeth on it that way. Quick reminder for everyone, Lisa Ratsky is on the call here. Please do feel free to reach out to her as well. She can sign you up to work with us. We do pay, by the way, one of our hallmarks for appraisers is we pay appraisers in 24 hours after report completion, so definitely sign up on your sign up with us for that, and make sure you get our direct deposit capability there. Appraisers do love that part of it. And a little appraisal buzz was helpful enough to put a little pop-up there on your screen, so feel free to reach out to us that way. Okay, so let me just go through a few. You guys ask great questions. Wow. Let's see here. David Vasquez, how do we reconcile an appraisal review as ordered? Guessing the review must be done by RemoteVal as well, because obviously, as you mentioned, there can be differences between boots on the ground and a bird's eye camera on the view. I think that's going to be up to you and the lender. The lender, first of all, has to say an appraisal review has to be done this way. I'm in the GSE scenario, I'm not sure they can do that. I think if they're going to order an appraisal review, I think they're going to want it to be in person and on the ground. In the private lending scenario, you can do it with remote at this point. But even if you're allowed to do it as a remote, if it's an appraisal review, you may choose to say, I need to go see it in person, which would make sense. Rudy, thank you for asking this question. Is a specific type of iPhone or Android model necessary to make it work? So just to recap, it will work on phones as old as 4 years old. iPhone 7 on up. And for the Android universe, Android running a Nougat OS or higher. That's a pretty old phone. So generally speaking, most people out there with iPhones have an iPhone 10 or higher. At this stage, most people have 11s, 12s, and 13s, actually. And in the Android world, with the new S22 having been released, people are upgrading like nuts to that. So I think in the next year and a half, probably well over 60 to 70% of all of those users will have the most advanced devices in their hands. And you don't need LiDAR, no, to do any of what you've seen here. LiDAR makes it better, For those of you who don't know what LiDAR is, on iPhone 13 and iPhone 12 Pro Max, you've seen it has like 17 cameras on the back. One of the cameras is a LiDAR camera. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. It's a special camera that actually puts out, essentially measures the photons of light between the camera lens and a target. That's why it's so accurate. So I could hold it. It's like accurate to within 13 feet, actually. Here in my office that I'm sitting in, I have a wall about 8 feet away. If I were to point my camera at it and enable LiDAR, it would measure it down to just almost what a tape measure would be. In some cases, even more accurate, because it's that accurate. Regarding the floor plan, created using 3D, if there's an error in the measurements of one room because it was not properly captured by the mismovement of the phone, would the homeowner or the agent have to do the whole walkthrough again to correct the floor plan? Not the whole floor plan, but yes, you would have to have them walk through the at least that room and recapture it, which you can do on a separate video. So that option does exist if you want to do that from a measurement perspective. Follow-up question, does it create separate calculations? Yes, we answered that question. Sorry, I'm just kind of flipping through as much as we can. Jim, feel free to come off mute too and keep me honest on time here. If there's anything that you want to cover or any other questions that you're seeing. What are the fees on the Incenter desktop compared to the Incenter full 1004? They are the same. An appraisal is an appraisal. So appraisers are taking just as much risk and you are doing the same level of work, even though you're not driving to the property. We feel that you should be compensated for it. So it's full appraisal. And let me tell you folks, none of our lenders care. They will pay you guys the full fees if they can get back their appraisals quickly. And I've found that to be universally true of almost every lender that I've talked to. That they're really just prioritizing. They want quality and they just want speed. And they're willing to pay a premium for it if you can deliver it. So that's what the idea is, the desktop. Okay, so is this app only for desktop appraisals? No, you can use it for portfolio appraisals, full appraisals that can be done on the desktop form in the consumer lending space, in portfolio lending, private fix and flip lending, in our tax appeal business. You can we have all of those opportunities available for you besides just GSE work that you can use RemoteVal on. Cost to an appraiser, there isn't one. We provide it to you free of charge. So when you take and accept an order from us, we give you the RemoteVal tool to use. And there's no charge to your consumer or the lender either to do that. It's just the cost of the appraisal. If there are no photos in the MLS, great question, Leslie. If there are no photos in the MLS, as does happen on occasion, do you just use a different, your question didn't complete. I don't see a final to it. If you want to ask it again, feel free. And we'll come back to it. As an appraiser, can I download your application from William Riley and use the measuring tool for typical inspections or the floor plan tool on interior inspections? The answer is yes, with the caveat. Right now, RemoteVal was designed to be given to an appraiser only to use with the homeowner. So we don't have a standalone version of it that you can just download and sort of use as a measuring tool at this point. But you're not the first appraiser who's asked me that question. It may be something that we introduce down the road. We'll see. But it's thank you for the question. Talking about wall thickness. I can imagine here from Brad, this is a good one. I can imagine a lot of homeowner reluctance to participate in this. Are they prepped by someone before we get involved? Answer, yes, the lender preps them. You saw that video at the end of my presentation, that preps them. And you're going to be quite surprised at the homeowner reluctance. Not to say that there aren't some, but we've been doing this type of inspection with this type of technology in the non-appraiser space for quite a while, doing this for lost draft insurance inspections, disaster inspections, and so forth. You would be amazed at the breadth and the range of people who will do it. Everyone from the tech savvy hipster, young 20-something, all the way up to people in their 70s and 80s holding their phones just to get photos. Everybody loves the process because it's just really easy, especially on the photo side, to do it. You're not learning anything. You're just holding your phone, and if you can basically take a picture with your phone, you can do this. And the appraiser is the one snapping the photos on the other end. So it's not even like you're having to learn the app. So the uptake has been pretty cool to see, very significant, and almost no pushback from customers at all. Okay. And Oh, here's a question.
Mark, we had one about, I think Aaron Chonka asked, could an appraiser send their trainee to the person's home and use them as the person taking all the...
Absolutely. It is an incredible and lovely way to apply this. And it is fully acceptable under GSE trainee policy today. So both Fannie and Freddie will accept that. You will do that on a 1004 URAR. So without any policy exclusions or special permissions, a lender who sells direct to Fannie and Freddie and is just following their policy could send me an order today, say this is a 1004 URAR, not a desktop. I want it done by supervisor trainee pair. I'm okay with that. I can send it to any one of my supervisory appraisers or appraiser firms. They can have the trainee get out to the property with RemoteVal on the phone. Supervisor can connect with the trainee, oversee them live, and then the trainee comes back and they both sign on the URAR, and that is considered a full appraisal under Fannie and Freddie policy today. Absolutely. It's a fantastic way to oversee your trainees, get them hours too, because you don't have to be at the property with them, which is great. So there's just a lot of benefits for a supervisor trainee pair. You guys could really amp up your production, as well as really on the quality of the appraisal side. You can observe what your trainee is doing. You can see how they're measuring the home. You can see what kind of pictures are being taken. You can take pictures yourself as you talk to them. You can really show them, here's what to look for in this room. You know, you can have that entire live experience and be doing that while you're sitting at home with them. Absolutely. Stavrula asked, I was late, can't tell if this is being recorded. It is being recorded. Appraisal Buzz will release that right afterwards for you. No problem at all. Thank you for joining. And Leslie, I think you finished your question was, do I use a different comp or go to take a picture? Okay, so you're talking about comparables that you're going to use. You have both choices. If you feel there's a comparable that's as good or better, and you can use it, then you can. If you feel the comp you selected was the best comp and there is no picture, you may have to go take a picture of that one. I think they might have addressed that in policy and FAQs. So don't quote me entirely on that, but it's a great question. What about MLS copyright rules? You're expecting a appraiser to violate those rules by using MLS photos? Well, I'm not, Beth, because you're not taking MLS photos, right? With remote inspection, you're taking yours using this. However, the photos being used on the desktop appraisal, to my understanding, can be used for this purpose, and they are, after all, public photos. So I think as long as you disclose that they are from the MLS and they're probably going to have a watermark on them, that should be fine. But I'm sure Fannie and Freddie have some FAQs on that we can look into. Teresa, do I employ appraisers right now in my QC department? You want to apply for a job? I'm sure we could find a place for you. Thanks for the question. John says, can we decide whether or not to do an inspection ourselves rather than using the remote app? Of course. I'll maybe end off on that point as well. You as appraisers are some of the best people I've ever known and met. I've made my living in the AMC space for 13 years, and I have hundreds of appraisers who are friends. I can say this about almost all of you. You guys are some of the best professionals that are out there, and you really prize integrity above all. So if you feel that you cannot do that inspection, or frankly, John, if it's just more practical for you, like I had an appraiser in Atlanta who said, I'd love to do a remote appraisal. Gave him the assignment, pretty big house, and it was only 10 minutes from him. He said, you know what, I'll learn, but on this one, you need it by tomorrow, so why don't I just go do it for you? Because it's just down the street. Completely fine with that, no problem. And again, if you feel like you can't finish the appraisal properly by doing it remotely, then pivot and do it as a full appraisal. We want you to make sure that you're absolutely comfortable with the work product that you provided us, and so is the lender. So I think I got just about every question. Oh, wait, there's one here from Aaron Chonka, which is a good one. Is it allowable to have a trained appraisal office staff or trainee conduct the inspection with the agent or homeowner from the licensed appraiser to analyze and review at a later time? So yes to the trainee. The office staff piece, my understanding in most states is that wouldn't be allowable because there are rules that states have on a state level. So many states require that it's just a trainee that you're working with if you're doing this. So I would say check your state regulations as well. It's not just the Fannie and Freddie and other sort of global policy, but you want to look at the state regulations as well and make sure you're adhering to those. So that would be the answer to that question. I think we got just about everything. So we're coming up at an hour and 15 minutes. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for hanging in there so long. There's so many of you still, I think, that are here and just asking wonderful questions. Jim, I want to turn it back over to you. And Lisa, before I do, Jim, can I just give Lisa an opportunity to talk about how you sign up with us and reaching out to her as well?
Absolutely.
So hi, everybody. Yeah, just reach out to me. Should I just give them my email? I guess it's lisa.ratzke, RATZKE, at Incenter, INCENTER, M as in Mary, S as in Sam.com. Or you can give me a call, 866-222-6205. My extension is 9227. Would love to hear from every one of you and get you hooked up with RemoteVal if you're interested. If not, just join our panel. Like Mark said, we do pay within 24 hours. And, we would just love to have you.
Yep. And I did put Lisa's email into the Q&A, I believe, as a Q&A question. So it's there for anyone who wants to grab that. Or
I published that, so they should be able to see that.
Yep. And you can reach out to us. We're happy to help get you your own RemoteVal account with a dummy order on it. So you can just take a look at it and push through it. Like I said, we have desktop appraisal orders today that we would love to place with you. So please do sign up and tell your friends. And as I'll just end it off by saying, no technology is perfect. It's always a journey to the next level. I would just tell appraisers, embrace the technology again, be a part of the solution. I mean, the fact that you're here on the call today is a great indicator of that. And we would love for you to tell us what's great about it, where it needs to improve, and give us that constructive feedback. If you run into an issue with it on the call, let us know so we can help you fix that. We're available, and we really, really appreciate you guys taking the time today with us in the middle of a busy season. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you to the Incenter team. I just published one more pop-up because I have some people who are asking how to get to the demo and how to get signed up. So you can do that. You can email Lisa. There's plenty of ways. We are recording this whole webinar. The streaming version will be emailed out as soon as it processes. It usually takes about an hour, and that'll be sent to everybody who registered. I was really happy with the turnout. We had over 340 people on at one point at this, so we really appreciate all of you joining us. Incenter has some more coming up with us later in the year, and you can also see them at Valuation Expo. They're one of our gold sponsors, so we appreciate their support with that as well. Thank you all, and have a great day.
Thanks all. Take care.
You.